Hey Fearless Mods fans, what is up? It is Biff, and it's time for another installment of working on that green S13 with the black hood. We are getting ready to go ahead and do the downpipe today. So it's a repeat, we've done it before, but stick with us. Okay, so we got a couple things going on. Riley has put the car on jack stands because one of the things we need to do is get these solid motor mounts on here and lower it somewhat so that we get the clearance under the hood. Plus that will adjust the, that will change the geometry of our exhaust somewhat. So we need to get these on. So that's the first thing he's working on. That needs to clearance on the hood to drop down, and the exhaust needs to go on. The problem is the intercooler piping. Even just the solid mounts with the current height would be better.
Yeah, but it's gonna put it down.
That is perfectly right there. I mean, there's, oh, I don't know how that can be done, because if that drops an inch, these, I mean, these are solid. These are one piece.
Those solid mounts look like they're the same height as these.
That's what I'm saying. Those solid mounts are freaking huge. It might be worth at least getting to the easier side that you can and trying to take that off and get those up there and take a look at them and see if they're, because that would be better than the spongy rubber you have. Let me bring you, the viewer, up to speed here with the severe issue we're having. You can see right here where we got a little bit of paint touching here from where the turbo's hitting the hood here. So it just makes contact. And that's setting still here. So as soon as he gets on the throttle, it's going to slam into the hood, especially with the factory motor mount. So the plan was going to be to put the lowering mounts on it, which are also urethane, which will not only lower it, but it wouldn't move as much. Give us maybe about an inch, I'm guessing, I don't know what it would give. We haven't even looked at it, but of clearance. And we were going to do the downpipe to that specification so it fits up with that. Good to go. Problem is, we weren't factoring in all of the intercooler piping here that is one solid welded pipe that we made that snakes its way up and around. So even if you drop this somehow, it's not gonna, this curvature isn't gonna work anymore because it's gonna drop an inch. This one we would maybe be able to do a little bit more with because it's got a little clearance there and we could maybe try to bend on it a little bit. I mean, ideally, we would have big boost, cut this off at whatever height we need to after it gets lowered and re-weld the flange up here on the aluminum. Problem is, we have the equipment but not the skill. We're gonna go ahead and try to put on those motor mounts right now and just see if it's just a stock ride height but urethane instead of rubber. Even that alone would help us a little bit. Riley has pulled off the intake and disconnected the hot side piping here. And I'm not losing hope because it does drop down a little bit. We have a little bit of room. So we might be able to drop it down enough and then loosen up this joint here a little bit to allow it to give us the angle we need to connect it back up. He's disconnected the motor mounts. He's still got to remove them. Right now he's taking off the drive shaft, and then we'll get under there and remove those and try to start setting it down. Meanwhile, I am going to go ahead and set up to start cutting some pipe so that I can start I can at least start on this top part because it's going to have the same geometry to get started. It's just the length of that vertical tube that's going to change mostly for us. Got all the pieces, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is start with the flange backwards, working that. You know, looking back at the previous job we did, I don't have that angle written down in my plans, but when I go back and rewatch the video I see that it was a 15-degree cut. So I'm going to start with a 15-degree cut, which gives me ability to cock this off to the side a little bit and get an angle started that I can then work down from. One thing I'm going to do different this time is after I've done that and as I'm welding it, I'm going to hammer in a little bit of a dented area right here where this bolt goes in, so that we can actually get that bolt in a little bit easier, because when this angles towards it, it kind of tends to shadow over it where you can't get it in and out, and has caused us to booger up those holes a little bit. Meanwhile, Riley's trying to put together the solid motor mounts in there that are in multiple pieces. Poor design, hopefully good result. What we've determined here, besides the fact that that's a crappy design, is those are OEM height to replace the OEM motor mount. So you could pop it right into that motor mount bracket right there, and it would be good to go just with the urethane as opposed to the rubber to stiffen it up. But we've got these lowering mounts, so that what we're going to do is pull off those brackets, put on the lowering brackets, and then together with that will give us the lowering that we're looking for. I just don't know until we get the other one out and look at it side by side. It's going to be hard to make the comparison.
Might be.
Right, see what it looks like here.
Yeah.
Same hole pattern, so that's a bonus. Whoa, are they? Wow, those look wider. That's weird. So that bolts up against the car, and here's what your drop will be. So whatever this to this is, looks like 3/4 of an inch drop.
It might be doable.
Oh, that was a good kick.
That's my turn to get leverage.
Time for some grindage. Oh, how awesome is it that we're out here in short sleeves? February. Oh. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and grind off this bung right here so that we can reuse it. And some of the other flanges, not this one, but some of the other flanges, I'm gonna grind them off so we can use them. Let's see here. It's kind of nice. It still has the curvature of the old pipe on it. So, I actually make it easier to weld. So we got us a bung holio complete. Alright, so for the, what I was going to do was just cut this flange off, but I think, because this is still a good piece of 3-inch pipe, and we don't know exactly where it's going to fall with my next flex pipe, so I think I'm just going to try to grind off this weld here so I can slide this off, and then I have the whole pristine piece of 3-inch pipe ready to go. On this factory intake here, there is a bracket that is interferes with the new motor mount. It shouldn't be a high stress area, so we're going to see if we can take the bracket off and just stick the motor mount in. Otherwise, we're going to notch out the motor mount to make room for the bracket. Riley is the name and deleting is the game. We just kind of had to pull out that front bolt off of the transmission stabilizer, and then I kind of ground it because of how we went in there. It's at an angle, so that's probably really sharp. You gotta be careful. But now that'll go onto those 4 holes like that real nice, and then go ahead and bolt that down. These motor mounts, actually they're staying there with the stud on it. As soon as this touches them though, they're gonna drop through it, and then the disc is gonna fall off, and it's gonna get really frustrating. But we're gonna go ahead and lower the engine down to right on top of them, and then see if we can then kind of feed them up in there and finagle them and get them. At least this should help give us a little bit of heat protection up there against the hood. It is going to be close, even though it was probably going to give me about 3/4 of an inch. It will offer some heat protection for that, for the hood. The cutout is still there, but it will probably push up into that and touch this, but we're going to see with an inside view here, just see how it looks. I can see it down in there real nice. Good, 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 looking good. That's first click and it's not touching, go ahead. All right, so that looks pretty good. So essentially what that does is, now that we have that mount in there, and it's given us that 3/4 of an inch clearance that we know we calculated, because it was just touching before, and now we've gained 3/4 of an inch, but the difference is that bolt goes all the way through. So whereas the engine used to mount to this and it had this rubber accordion that would cushion everything, both in the compression and whenever the engine is pulling up when he's gassing it, it's pulling against that and it's flexing, because you can just see that's a big rubber gasket attached really only on your right side, I think. Now it's just a solid bolt coming through that urethane. So in compression, when it's just sitting there, it's against the urethane, but whenever he revs it, it's pulling against that bolt. So it really should be pretty solid, and it should not come up and hit that hood at all. But really happy with that. I want to just look at what it did to our intercooler piping, because we were concerned about that. On this side, you see how this, if you can see it, it pinches down here just a little bit, because this is 3/4 of an inch higher, and it's just pulling against this. So it does put just a slight little bit of, you can see it divoting in here and then pinching up here a little bit where it just pulled up and it's not quite as smooth. It'll make it harder to get on and off because this is 3/4 of an inch higher, but it's not pinched down to restrict airflow or anything. It should work fine. And this one here, we are essentially,
Worked out pretty well.
it's actually clearing right there right now. So it's pretty good. You might want to trim some of that eventually, like in here. See where it's touching, bend that down a little bit and create a little space. Beauty, it worked, and we didn't have to go through everything to do this, so that duo color green and flat black S13 will be ready to hit the road again. So now that means that we can continue working on the downpipe. I'm going to go ahead and do a few more cuts tonight. Ideally I would have everything cut and ready to go. I'm not going to quite get there. I just want to make a couple more cuts tonight and then call it a night, and we'll hit it again tomorrow. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do here is I cut a couple flanges off. This one I can just stuff down in the end here, making it real easy to just weld around the edge here, and that'll be good to go. And then I can put this one on right before I do my my bend in my 45 to head up the firewall. And then using the pipe that we had from before, I can adjust the length here a little bit before I weld it in if I need to. And that way we have flanges on both ends that can drop this out, and we don't have to try to fish the whole thing down in there in one piece. It's making horrible cuts too. I don't know. It's not straight. Cutting for shit. What in the hell? Why are you curving? Is it curving, or is it my eyes playing a trick on me? The Harbor Freight POS is not doing the trick anymore. I keep cutting this, and every one of the cuts that I'm doing is curving forward. You can see when you look through to the other side, you can see how these are all swooping down forward. I've tried adjusting the belt. I've adjusted the guides on each side. It was off track. I'm guessing maybe with it being off track for so long, it's put like a little bit of a bend in the belt. It's not cutting it anymore, and I need to cut this, and I need to have it done tonight. So I am going to freehand these to the precise angles that I need them, and that's going to be no fun. So that's what I'm going to do, power up the air compressor and get the grinder going. Alright, so that actually works quicker than the saw. Even if it's not quite as true, it works out pretty good. Time to start welding some pieces here. See how this goes. I'm getting low on argon, so we got another tank here, hopefully, with a regulator that we can hook up. Better than the duct tape job I did last time.
At least that one big part is done already. So really, there's only just a little woo, and then it's good.
All right, so we got a line. We drew a couple lines on here. I cut an angle on the top of this and on top of this so that we could line it up. And we got a couple lines here so we can orient that, and that should give us the right pitch and angle to shoot it down to the bottom. Okay, so what we have done so far is the flange on the back of the turbo with the little extension, a few pie cuts, and then a straight shot down, which we were kind of showing you. So we've got that. The next thing we're going to do is get down here and on the front end of Riley's fancy new exhaust. Hadn't told you about that yet, but a nice double tip straight pipe essentially. And on this end of it up here, we're going to go ahead and fasten our extension here, which is kind of a cat delete plus, and we're going to go ahead and bolt that on there so we can start to look at how we need to mate this front end up with the back end of the downpipe. We're putting in a flange here this time so that it's two pieces as opposed to one long piece like we had last time, and made it really hard to install. We checked the fit underneath, and it looks like everything's coming together. Maybe slightly different than before, but close. So I'm going to go ahead and weld this onto the tip here and go ahead and get this curvature started so I can check it up against the downpipe. You know what that sound means? What? Anytime I'm tapping like that means I have blow through. So here's what we're looking at. Off of that forward pipe, got one more wedge here that we can use to kind of help make a little angle if we need to. Look at the hole I have to fill there. Got to do a butt weld on there. It rounds the corner and goes to the downpipe. So we're gonna go fit that up and see what else we need to do. I feel it now, we're close. Amazingly enough, my rudimentary cuts have us right where we want to be. All right, so we're going to cut, sorry, this back off of there. We'll keep the orientation, so I'll mark the orientation up higher. We're going to cut an inch and an eighth off of there. You can go ahead and pull the other pipe as well. And I'm going to go ahead and get to cutting.
Why? Just the front
and welding.
The front part?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Just the tip?
Just the tip. Okay, last cut on here. Can I touch this yet? Yes. And then that will allow me to weld this on at the right angle, and then everything else will just get absorbed by the flex pipe. Let's finish it up. Only thing remaining after that will be to locate the bung hole, Leo. Holy crap. What is it? It's after 1 a.m. But we've successfully recreated this bronze beauty, which has seen better days, into this new improved, uglier weld version. It's probably about the same. It's actually pretty good new design, because like I say, we stop here now instead of having 3.5 or 4 more feet of extra pipe in there. So that's what dropping your pipe down and backing it up into a curb and accordioning the thing will do to your downpipe. But we're ready to go. Bung hole and all, we are ready to go. So we're going to fit it up now and put some gaskets in and make sure everything holds up.
One more weld.
Huh?
We got one more weld under the car, right?
One more weld under the car. Well, one more weld. Have you taken that off yet?
No.
Got one more weld. And then we're gonna put it together.
Yeah.
Crushing hopes and dreams daily, Riley. Thank you, man.
And we got a heat wrap.
That isn't happening tonight, right?
No.
Okay. So yeah, heat wrap. And some protection of the brake lines, because the lowered turbo now kind of is even closer to those brake lines. So we are about a half to a quarter inch away from it. Enough room for heat wrap and maybe a turbo blanket. Actually, a turbo blanket would be a wise decision. But anyway, yeah. All right, so we're gonna keep plugging away because we are almost done and it's approaching bar closing time. All right, so that is a wrap. Even though it's not wrapped yet, we will wrap it. And we got it done on Tuesday, which we absolutely needed to do, because tomorrow we need to get, this thing will be outside of here tomorrow. It's got to be, because I've got to start getting this stuff ready to move to Illinois. So this is, it was a lot of work. It took us late into the night. It's you know, approaching 2 a.m. But we got her done. Like Riley was saying, all he's got to do is get that bolted up, get it heat wrapped, bolted up, and connect the O2 sensor or the wideband sensor, and then that will be a job complete for lowering the engine. We already fixed the hood and repairing the downpipe, so that he should be ready to run this thing again. Did an oil change as a little side benefit there. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap on this one. I know we already did it once before for the downpipe, and this was a repeat again. This was MIG versus TIG, because this is what I can do, and it's much quicker. I think it turned out just fine. When you wrap it, it's going to look just as good as the other one did. And anyway, more content to come. Don't know what it's going to be. Stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching Fearless Mods. We'll catch you again real soon. Take care.